when I was starting these interviews, I was thinking, okay, who could be the person that I could interview and that um, could bring this idea of meaningfulness and a good balance and a happy life and a good energy. So straight away, one of the persons that I thought it was you, and I was writing this like
Thank
kind
you.
of the why behind and what is it that I'm trying to understand in this interview and share with the people that will listen to us. So it says like this: during my master's studies at UID, Ale Argenio stood out as one of those educators who left a lasting impression, not just on the transportation design students he mentored directly, but on many of us across the entire school. With a constant smile and an air of genuine curiosity, you will often see Ale walking around the studios, stopping by students' desks to see what they were working on. And more often than not, those quick check ins will turn into meaningful conversations. People felt comfortable just opening up, sharing their ideas, and asking for his feedback. Regardless of the topic, Ale always had something valuable to contribute, whether it was a sharp insight to elevate your concept or an encouraging word that made you feel seen and proud of your idea. If you were to take a look at his career, it becomes clear where this breadth of perspective comes from. He has explored a wide range of design disciplines from transportation design to human computer interactions, collaborating with influential studios like Grand Studio, IDEO, Noon, and Fjord. With that kind of diverse experience, it's not surprised that Ali could offer thoughtful advice at any kind of project. But I think what truly makes him special is something else because experience alone doesn't guarantee generosity. What I consider makes Ali different is his empathy and care for the design community. That willingness to share, support, and inspire is what we are here to explore and understand with him today. Something that you and me have shared is this perspective at UID, right? That you will go around every student and what they're doing, and you will always feel this feeling of sharing and caring and just being happy and saying, hey, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Would you like to take a look? Or, just this feeling of people doing amazing stuff and always willing and humble to share whatever it is that they were working on.
I call it creative oxygen, the sense of constant, not just source of inspiration, but source of mixing things that do not normally relate to each other. But when we talk about design, that is extremely on point, because design is it is about like the connection and the connectors as us as designers. So the thing is, just being in a design school, it is that feeling. And now I'm fully back into a design studio, but I never left the industry. There was a parenthesis of a few years, which I truly enjoy, like being full time into a design school. And leading a design program, master program, it is a challenge on multiple levels. But the idea is just the oxygen, the creative oxygen that I was just mentioning, comes from all of you, all the students,
Mm.
and the diversity of natural diversity of all those projects. So you jump into a corridor and then you go into a class, and the students that are doing the most diverse things. And even just within the class, imagine with one design brief. So the idea here, like it was to get that the level of reciprocity. So it was coming back and forth, the energy.
And another idea that you're sharing that you started to be a guiding mentor, the director of the transportation design program. How did you arrive there? We might not really go that deep into your career because it's quite broad, and we are more interested here into your mindset and how is that you approach design and this community of mentorship. But could you share a bit with us what took you from the career path of working on the field to wanting to guide and mentor students? Because I also see that you are part of this APD list. If you can also share a bit about that.
This the yeah what you're referring to is this online community, and the thing is just that that allows to even connect with people globally. So that the thing is just you help someone in Nigeria and then you jump into Latin America and then you jump again to Asia. So in a matter of a few weeks, so it's almost like a portal. You know, you can teleport and help people globally. So it really enhances your ability to not only connect with humans but just help them in their real struggles in their career, especially junior and mid designers. And I would say there's always a connector like that I was mentioning before, but to me, jumping into from a full-time design manager career into being a full-time program director in a design institution, such as UMEO Institute of Design, where we met, that process started like in in a way that I started like having moments in which I was mentoring design students remotely, and then I started realizing that was something that became much more of a call, and then I think that's something that can be for each one of us a realization. So when you start realizing that you do things naturally, that you naturally want to help others, that was my case, but this could be also you're much more prone into CGI, so computer graphics, or you see that you're much more into the motion of things, so you notice this, even the movement of leaves, right? And the thing is, that's something that then you can transform that potential. Just is because your art of noticing what you're noticing in your life and in others, and that is also something reflected like that
Yeah,
in my own career. So that I had
yeah,
that.
totally. Because then what I can link there is that okay, so you started your studies, I guess, as a industrial designer, like as a generalist. Am
I
I
started
right?
actually as a transportation designer, and
Okay,
but I was extremely bored by the idea of styling only, and the thing is, just then I jumped into human computer interaction, and I never finished that because
and there
one of
could we
my
say that it was like a call there, as you were
100%,
mentioning this
yes,
idea of
yes, indeed. When I was a kid, I was always asking for my uncle's like the car keys when I was 10 and then 11, but not because I wanted to turn on the engine or something, but because they were the first interfaces there. They had the first car navigator in the late 90s. And the thing is, that was an excuse, to copy those icons. And I think it's just, what are you doing, Ali, with the car keys? No, I'm not gonna give it. And then they followed me, right? Like, and that what I wanted to do. So, but I had no clue of what was the profession called. There was no institution. Oh, that is called interaction design, and that was really at the early stage. And there was nobody like with the even in academia there was nothing like connected to just this, oh, this is the master program. There was the early stage. There was just that there were just a few institutions that were established and saying this is interaction design, this is how it's called, but it wasn't like on a global knowledge like it is right nowadays.
okay. So then you started from the transportation design, and then you decided to move on into or to jump into computer design or computer
Yeah,
interaction.
I would say I started working exactly where I am right now in Torino.
Okay,
I had a few internships before when I was studying, but then I started working straight. I had Arduino. It's based
okay.
here in Torino, and also for our audience, Arduino allows you to is a microcontroller. So it's an electronic board that is made for everybody. So
Hmm.
it really makes it much more accessible to program things in your lives, and I think to learn electronics. So there was an incredible push for me to learn much more into electronics, and I loved it because that's what I also studied in high school. And so there was a mix of understanding the world and in terms of physics, but also translating into something that is tangible for others. So that was the call as well. Seeing how people were empowered by at the beginning just simply blinking an LED because the
Yeah,
temperature in the
yeah.
room changed. Like that's a eureka moment that you have that moment. You say, "Whoa!" Okay, and that wow moment is something that you can translate into anything you do.
When you realize that you can do something, and that spark is just like, oh my god, if I can do this in
Yes,
just 5 minutes, even one day, with this little knowledge, I can do
exactly.
anything, like
Bravo.
anything.
Exactly,
That
and that is something that is translated into a design career, and that's why I changed different fields.
and then what happened from after Arduino? Like then you decided to keep going with the UX UI or what?
At the time it wasn't even called that way. So that's also the interesting thing. So it was the beginning of interaction design, but then
Hmm.
what I continue always being across like that and mobility transportation. So looking at projects that were across, because and then I start finally seeing the automotive companies. Even I remember I think it was, I don't want to be wrong, 2011, 2012. And at the Geneva, we can fact check this, but it was at the Geneva Car Show that you could see for the first time companies such as Google or Apple or Microsoft showing up into a car show. And then you could see this transition. Okay, wow, this is becoming relevant because they were
Yeah.
interested in the interior, what happens, or anything that moves. And it's
Hmm.
not just a car, it could be other things. And it could be a bus, it could be an airplane, it could be anything that moves, right? And it allows us to move as well. So the thing is that I saw the transition, but still 2014, 15 weren't there yet. So now we're a decade later, we're going into what I normally call social robotics, so moving entities. So what I normally call
Yeah.
so something that just moves, and
Yeah.
it allows you to do that, but also there's so much complexity in the interaction that it has with the world outside and the world inside it.
When you were moving from there, I see that then you went to IDEO, right?
Correct. That has
I mean,
been before
among
Dublin,
others.
and
Yeah.
if you're Dublin, there was an experiment on how like imagine what does it mean to have early stage experiments on artificial intelligence, and when you have that expression of intelligence, so you have companies there in 2016, 2017 were asking us to imagine what it could be the effect on of using artificial intelligence. So at that stage, it wasn't on a mass usage, and from there, like I moved from Dublin later on at IDEO San Francisco. Yes, and
And
then
how
IDEO
was that?
London. So it's been
Okay, okay. So you were first San Francisco, and then you moved
yes,
to
correct.
London. And how was that experience like? I mean, you were from transportation design, and then kind of this hybrid, almost in the end of edge of transportation design to interfaces, and then AI. Is there any connection that you felt they share a similarity?
I know it might not sound immediate, but then when I'm telling you, it's human behavior. So human behavior is always the red thread, the what connects all of them. And that's also what I suggest to students, design students, but also to junior and mid designers when they're asking me, like, Ale, are we like is it our profession could be gone like in the future? And that exactly in the same realm. That's what we did at that time in terms of understanding deeply human behaviors. And that's something that goes, and that's my personal interest in noticing how people use technology and how through design we can change behaviors. And at that point, that becomes something universal. It will still last for the next 20 years. You still want to call your parents or your loved ones, or you still want to connect with friends. It doesn't matter the way. So it changes the medium. So that's, but still the behavior is there. The need, the latent needs are still there. So that's what we can focus in those
Mm.
needs, those behaviors, and how they change mediated through technology, but also societal innovation. So there are a lot of lenses there.
What I'm getting here a lot is that you have quite a sensitive point on empathizing with people, right? Because uh, what I'm hearing is that a lot of what makes design better is when people is has a better time interacting with themselves, interacting with other people, just having a good time, enjoying their surroundings, and also just being by themselves. But how do you achieve that if you don't know how to empathize with society? If you don't consider users as their center goal or as their main and most important person or concept in what you're creating, people feel like you're designing just for something without soul, I guess.
There's that embedded emotional lens for sure into products, but it's also Nowadays, there are so many lenses on design, especially on the planetary perspective. So there's a lot of change per se, but also updating design courses as well at all levels, and making sure that we consider a broader perspective than just the one single human. But also, there's also in history, especially in the previous century, in the history of design, we noticed the transition from art to being an artist and being a designer, that initial conflict and inspiration from each other. So the
Mm.
industrial society was the beginning of something completely different, which is this product exists and is being reproduced multiple times. And that is also happening in photography. So it was parallel with art. So that's the interesting element there. And a figure of design, the designers and the figure of design as a profession start developing into what do we give what do we give extra meaning, and at the beginning it was highly connected to differentiation of products. Now it is about taste, because that differentiation is given already by branding. So it is very different. So our profession is changing a lot in fascinating ways that we cannot predict or anticipate, but we observe a lot. But
Yeah, I
humans,
think
to your point, humans is yes, is the beginning, but is their observational lens. So observe how everything interacts with everything else. It doesn't matter what it is, and then you can really expand the perspective. You really diverge your thinking as a designer. That will last for the next decades.
yeah, I think that maybe it was a little bit not that broad, or maybe too selfish by just saying the human is the main center. But what I mean is, of course, that you have to take into consideration your society, your surrounding, like nature, animals. They are, I think, also part of the everything. Because if you were to say, "Oh, this is just for people," and I don't care what harm it makes to environment, then you're not really designing for humans. You're going
But
to
you're
kill them
repeating
in the end.
history. That happened already. Like, that somebody would tell you, like, that happened already. So now we're evolved from there. So the thing is, no, but the point is, just you can start wherever you like. So it can be a deductive or inductive process. You can start from a larger, you can start from a detailed. Start wherever you want, but just make sure not to lose the global perspective. That's what I normally say. Just go looking at things from above, and and that is the systemic thinking. So you start from a tiny thing that connects with another. So it could be, I'm working on the details of a bus, okay? But then I look at the system and I look at that from above, and I start looking at systems of buses. And then rather than focusing on super important handle for the bus, but I also focus on a transportation system for a city and how that interacts with other things. Then I can have million of other ideas. Maybe in the back I have a rack for bikes, for example, or mopeds that can be integrated into the system. So I guess that can really spark new ideas.
I think that's like also a superpower of this profile of a designer, right? That you are able to zoom in crazy enough to just see the dimension of a fillet, and really zoom out and consider every different profession, because have to take care of the psychological part, the engineering part, the sustainable part, a lot of aspects that you really have to zoom out, because what you are designing is going to impact and is going to be used, and is going to have a, yeah, again, an impact in everybody that is around.
But yeah, the point is, and that maybe goes back to the question. I really saw this enhanced approach at IDEO for sure. That was a moment of
Mm.
my career, the pivotal point. It wasn't about the projects anymore. It was always about connecting the dots and studying from proper research. That's also another important part that sometimes is given, like, we are ticking the boxes. Instead, why do we do, rather than evaluative research, we do a form of research that is exploratory. So really explore things, and rather than evaluating the new for example, how it could be a system for closing bottles or opening bottles. Then I reinvent the entire system. So that not necessarily will go that way, but I look at the way that people hydrate themselves. So I really expand the how might we type of questions, and it becomes a what if, and becomes much more exploratory. That's been a change, there is strong change in the process.
one of the strongest points when you think about IDEO, it was like these were they were kind of the ones that really started this design thinking approach as something mainstream, right? That it was not just for designers, but it was also for any other area that wanted to do something creative. And then it was like a bridge for us to tell companies and everyone else that was not that into design to say, hey, this is how you might be able to do a creative process.
I would say they develop design thinking to like I agree, like in the sense they I design thinking was already there in the sense that and they were not the inventors per se but ideal, but the thing is just they expanded it for sure to a larger audience. But the thing is just to be that what I truly learn and that I'm for the individual conversation here that we're having is just how can you empower, for example, rather than you're working with, how can you empower a doctor or a nurse in developing with you, and that's a real mind shift there. And the way that rather than I'm designing a tool just with that with a professional, I'm designing for that professional. I'm designing with that professional. So that's just the distance there.
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference if I'm start empowering and professionals as well in other disciplines. They can start understanding much more and bringing humans and even a planetary perspective at this point into the process. That is changing everything on a systemic level, so on a really higher level.
Hey, I'm Gerry, and I would like to take a quick break for a tiny commercial sponsored by me. I hope you are enjoying this interview. If so, I would really appreciate if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, but it really helps to reach more people and keep this project growing. So go ahead, and I will wait right here for you. Ready? Good. Now, let's get back to the interview. From those experiences that I'm seeing more and more that you were always very connected to, I really want to get close to who I'm designing and work with them. Is there any point in your career where you realize that, oh, mentoring people, talking with them and giving them advice is something that is also a call that you felt?
I would say I realized over time what pissed me off for sure, and it was the unfulfilled potential, like in people. And I started
Okay.
realizing, and I started using that frustration into, you start with the people that you love, with your friends, and and I think it's just start realizing, wow, when your best friend tells you, like, I think you could do better than this. I think this is not like, and it's not easy to say. It's not easy to
Yeah.
be on the other side and receive that, but it's true,
Yeah, the
and
real
not
good friends are
necessarily.
the ones that really tell you,
They're really
I know
telling
you
you,
can
right?
do
That's
better.
what I'm just for everybody, just to make sure what I'm talking about is this. And it's not just reading on a blog, like it's that moment. And it's not easy to be that friend or being on the other side and receive that feedback. Both situations are terrible, but also extremely good for yourself, for your growth. Which I think that is highly connected to the pedagogical side of helping people. um, I would say normally use this metaphor, holding, writing their own story, holding the pen in their hands. Okay, writing their own story. I think that's a huge difference. Most of the time, when we are kids, we're hearing so much, we're listening, and we take someone else's dream. And maybe it could be family members, it could be a school, and then movies and influences of any types, right? From art and literature as well. And it really influencing, those are really influencing our way of thinking about the future. And by time growing is also the process of empowering ourselves in shaping that personal future. And other times there are things that we don't have any control of, but there are a few things that we really have extreme control of. And then also we can do extreme damage or we can really empower ourselves. And I'm not
Yeah.
here to say to people what it is, absolutely. But what I'm noticing is just I call it, that's it, being a full-time professor helped me figure out that I could be a design therapist. So I could really help just designers because it's our field in knowing when, look, you're simply in a moment in which you're creatively stuck, and it's okay. You just, there's no problem. Don't blame yourself. Just go for a walk. Like, or have you tried this? That was simply the situation. Other times it was much more complex, and it was about being in even helping a meat designer, for example, in their moment that they cannot relate to their manager, for example, and have issues with that. They cannot communicate, and then you need to understand the screening of problems. So it is a communication problem. It is actually a design problem. What is it? Like, and then framing those questions early stage in your career will help you solve problems even before they come out. And that's a realization for me. So to your point, to the question, sorry, just to close it,
Yeah,
it's just I realized that this is something I love doing. And then you can make a profession out of that.
and there I think it's quite a challenge. Like I don't think like a lot of people might be super happy to say, yeah, I want to be a mentor, because a lot of the reality there is that you have to be very honest and very straightforward, and
Yes.
sometimes it can be like you might be hurting people. And to that, while you were saying all this, it came to my idea. Okay, so how do you give good feedback? I was reading a comment from a book. I think, oof, I don't remember exactly the name, but they were saying like giving a comment of something that you are thinking is not feedback. Just saying, oh, that color is horrible, that is not feedback. A lot of us, we have grown with this idea of we start building this kind of a shell where we don't
Yeah,
want to
shield,
listen to
yes.
feedback ever, because it's harmful. But the reality is that we have never really experienced what is good feedback.
Mm,
We might have experienced just this idea where you feel tormented and you are just feeling like they are just pushing you and beating you to the floor, and you never can lift up again. So some of us, we might prefer, yeah, I'm okay, I don't want to listen to feedback, or even we might just defend ourselves. So I guess then I have two questions. How do you know how to give feedback? Do you have a formula? And also, how do you receive feedback?
I would say to the giving part, it takes a lot of time to craft it, and everybody's still in the process of doing that. Also, because people in front of you are new people, or like they at different moment in their lives. So there's always a calibration and recalibration. So there's never a fixed system. However, there are a few, I would say, pro tips on that. You can save yourselves from the mistakes that I made, and there are plenty of books about it. So we live in the 21st century, so you can really like elevate yourself, right? But the thing is, a few things is just be on point, be directional. So the thing is just, and I think it's just know the timing. What I mean, and I expand a little bit on that. Know the timing. I'll start from the last one. It's just if you see that in terms of the design field, you see someone has a presentation tomorrow and is already late during the day, you don't give a definitive feedback. It's not the moment. Okay. It's not early stage in the process. And I see that multiple times. Okay. That is the moment in which you destroy someone because that person is clearly, so observe the person. Is that person extremely tired right now? Is not the best moment. Has that person, even sounds basic, has that person eaten so far? It's not the moment. Eat first, receive feedback. So in that moment. Also, be what I mean with directional, make sure that your feedback is not general, is always very specific. It's like with compliments. Complimenting someone is an art because you need to be very specific. If you general compliments means nothing. Just if you're on point, because that's what you mean. Feedback is the same. It's not about the entire project, it cannot be. It's about this right now. And then we can also talk about the overall perception of a project. But you're talking about this. It's not working right now for all these reasons. Articulate the reason. If there's no reasoning, that's the direction. Best of luck. It's not a feedback. It's not a piece of feedback. It is just a comment, as you mentioned. And the thing is, a lot of managers they think they actually been into that constant radical candor. And what they're throwing at their team is actually comments with no context or no specificity. That is super dangerous because I think they're in a good place by heart. They do, and I help a lot of managers in that process. Believe me, they really tell me like, Ale, like I really thought I was doing the right thing, and then it's like, can you give me an example? How do you give feedback? And we're literally shooting at people like darts, of comments. That is
like,
that is a nasty one. Exactly, like shooting, and or sometimes even with a bazooka. So the thing is just you're destroying not just the project but someone else's confidence, which is a completely different realm. So to at least the first part of the question, that is a lot about being specific, directional. So like specific and directional with a reason, and then the timing. Okay, so know the timing. Early stage, you receive much more, and that's also for your side. Receiving feedback is just ask a lot of feedback at the beginning, not at the end of the presentation when you're really really close to. At that point, you start from diverging initially, you're converging. So you have a purpose now. You know exactly what you're doing. From the moment of chaos and unclarity, you're getting clarity.
and then what about when you receive feedback? What can you do when I think there's two very clear profiles, right? Like the very positive ones that they will just stand there. That is quite not frequent. That they will stand there and they will listen and they will not take some notes and maybe debate if there was something that it was not clear. But I think what the majority of us are used to see is just this person that is offending, and they even get red and they are just about to attack because, of course, they are giving you feedback on something that you've been working for a lot of time, and to you it's like, oh no, and it's not like that, it's not like that, and what I see there is just you are not being vulnerable to really listen, and you are just defending something that you think you are in the right way.
Over time, I would say you will start recognizing the toxicity of situations, so you can evaluate over time. At the beginning of your career, no, like you, so oh, that person has been just nasty. Maybe that is still a human being on the other side, so maybe just that person just had a bad day, and when they saw your proposal, it was out of a lot of meetings that didn't go with a lot of green lights. But so maybe it can also be, so that's also about empathy that goes on the other side as well. Look at the person is giving, is it your manager at that point highly stressed? Okay, so maybe it's not the moment for ask for feedback if you're in a professional setup, for example. If you're in a design school, it's quite different because then everybody's trained in the educational staff is training the pedagogical lens, okay, on the pedagogical lens. So the thing is, it's very different because there are people that they know much more when is the moment to give feedback, when is the moment which is an open discussion, or right now, how can you transform that into something meaningful? However, even with a person that in that moment has high toxicity, if you try to remain neutral, which is a technique for you, is to detach yourself over time from the project. The projects feel highly personal, but also over time, you will start developing the fact that you fall less in love with your ideas because you know you can have many ideas. So start falling in love with those ideas, initial ideas especially, is a proper professional maturity as a designer. So if you
Yeah,
start detaching a little bit, the comment is about the thing, it's about the idea. It's not about me, it's about the idea, first of all. That helps you. And then the second step, so it helps you remaining neutral in the situation and then ask follow-up questions. So did you even repeating the same thing? So did you ask this because of this, or what was exactly? So you show interest. If that person, if initially might be frustrated by your initial proposal, they understand what you have actually misunderstood on your side. And that could solve the majority of the problems, which are communication issues. They think you were on another stage of the process. That is a misalignment, simple, plain misalignment. And your manager was expecting very different, or your client was expecting a very different thing at this stage, because what they meant as a draft is not what you meant as a draft. Okay, this could be also a moment of misalignment. So you ask better question then over time,
mm,
and then you learn. And at the end of the project, make sure that you do a retrospective. What can I do better? That is something that really will make the difference in your career.
I guess adding to this from the point that I have experience, which is receiving feedback mainly, I remember just by the idea of asking for it and being open. Like, of course, at the beginning, it's going to hurt. Like, whatever that you're practicing, if you're not good at that, it might not go that well. But the more you experience and you practice and you are opening up yourself and really asking for the sake of improving, I think there is where you really start realizing and taking advantage of a feedback from someone that is more experienced.
True, but also over time, this will allow you to get better recognize the person in front of you and their state of mind. If
Hmm.
they just also coming with that's also the thing. There's a difference between toxic positivity, thinking that everybody's just good, like in a sense, in their intent all the time. That can also hurt as well and backfire easily. But instead, it's starting with good intent. Think always the person in front of me is trying to help me getting better.
Hmm.
Okay. But it's
Yeah.
still, even if that moment that person is being harsh, and you can always give feedback on the way that they gave feedback to you. Just look, I really get your point on the design, but the way that you communicate that, that was wrong. That was too much. Okay. And still, maybe not in that moment, but you find the right moment to say it. And it still again, goes both ways. Okay. There's also create a much more, not only inclusive, but just it creates that reciprocity, the process that doesn't become just feedback comes in one way. No, it goes back and forth. And also, I think it will hurt even more if you don't hear anything about just positive pat on the shoulders and then you arrive to the moment of reality. And there's always a moment in which that will hit you 10 times harder. So what you just mentioned, it comes from, yes, at the beginning of your career, but even later on, constantly ask for feedback. And I think it just you will get not detached, and it's not about getting the shield, and but you will get less defensive
Hmm.
over time. You will get much more neutral about it. Just even if someone says something that might be toxic, but still it won't hurt you. And not because you have a defensive mode, but simply because you say, look, that person has simply had a better had better days than today. Let's put it
Yeah.
this way. And that's it.
The tricky part of what we do is, even though it is not art, right? But we are still impregnating a lot of who we are and how we think with everything that we are designing. So I guess that's why a lot of the feedback that we get gets very tricky and personal. And again, the more that you expose yourself to that, I think is the best way to really detach from your work. Who it doesn't mean that because you receive harsh feedback, you are a bad person. It is just that you are there and you are receiving it and you're improving and realizing that you always have space for improvement. I think that's also the best way of growing as a professional and also personally.
Something that will truly help you is also reducing when you're presenting as a designer. This is my proposal. But even our proposal as a team, this is the first proposal. Even just the way that you're framing it truly, truly helps you in things like this. This is a proposal. Out of the many that we had as a team, this is
Yeah.
the first proposal. This is the one that we choose. Okay, that's it. But I'm start detaching a little bit, even in the language. It really, really helps. If you start saying, this is my proposal, this is my solution, this is my idea, it's really hard to detach because even when you're presenting, you're so attached to it. Okay, we know it's just you presenting, so we know this is your idea, so then it's redundant. But try at least for yourself to detach. This is one of the many ideas. You're highly creative, many ideas, but this is the one that you chose to evolve for all these reasons. So it's not to hyper rationalize it, but it's just giving context in a way that is much more neutral. It will truly help you on the other side to give you feedback and for you to receive them.
What is something that you could say that you have learned, maybe not the most, but one of the, yeah, like what kind of points you're happy that you have learned from having this chance of mentoring people?
Is to is to be surprised. I the thing is just the nature of giving feedback, Jerry, is a lot about the if you do that with open heart in the sense and truly with the intent of helping someone else, you're also opening yourself and you're vulnerable as well. You're not coming from a position I'm higher than you. It's simply saying I've been there. Okay. And I want to avoid you like the million mistakes that I've already made. That is a important mental shift to do. And I'd also even before this chat we had several conversations about the humility that comes with that. The idea that I'm not necessarily better than you, but the thing is just for sure I've been thrown so many projects out there and failed miserably and I wish somebody had told me. that's also the way that I framed a lot to students. And I wish somebody had told me that much earlier. And I think that there are a lot of people on different channels as well communicating that. But also, and I think it's just luckily the internet allows us to be a little bit more flat on that. Still, there are things, of course, that you have 10 years ahead and you're definitely better and more refined for sure. But other things are simply plain tons of mistakes that we call experience. And phrase it that way is not, it's not about sounding better. It is closer to reality. And that's a way that I learned that how much I can learn from the other side. That's also goes with the overarching question that you asked me: why do you do this? And I get that question a lot of times. Like, Ale, why do you do this? And honestly, I get a lot back. And I think it just that is not just a piece of knowledge, but is the fact that you see that person doing better in the next presentation or coming at you with saying, "Ale, I did this," and look at that. And it's not just because you have contributed. You actually
Hmm.
unlocked something that was already in that person. That is a very different mindset as well. It was already knew
Yeah,
that potential. It simply got unlocked because it was stacking somehow in your creative confidence that you built over time.
I guess that we'd like to ask you why do you do it, because it's nice, right? Like it's funny to say that because not everyone is doing it. You don't have like everyone just going around and saying, "Hey, how are you? Do you want advice?" Because also that's kind of annoying, right? Like you don't want everyone just going around and
It's
saying,
kind
"Hey,
of fun.
let me give you advice. Let me give you advice." It's
Indeed,
like you
indeed.
build that by just walking, talking, and saying, "How are you? How things are going?" I don't know. If, kind of you push people like it's like a nice massage where they are feeling comfortable and they say and they start speaking and opening up and say, "Oh, yeah, so this is what I'm doing." And again, from what I was saying at the beginning, the fact that you have knowledge and experience doesn't mean that you will be generous and share your experience with that. I haven't been a mentor by any means to someone, but I think the closest connection that I have had is when students that are about to apply to this uh, program, the advanced product design at Umeo, they have sent me their portfolios, and to me that feeling of, ooh, I can help them and I
Yes.
can give them advice, and then sending it back and receiving a message from them saying, hey, uh, thanks, like I got in, like thanks a lot for that.
How did
And
you feel in that moment, right?
it was
That's
amazing, like even,
yes.
like even if they didn't get in, just by the fact that they were like, hey, wow, thank you for your time, for giving me your little or much knowledge that you had, because it really helped me achieve this that I wanted to do. And you are part of this. You are part of this achievement. And honestly, I don't do it really for that, but I do it because it feels good. Like just ah, it might be a little, but I think this could help. And knowing that that person is achieving something and you were part of that, it's a nice feeling of just it's like energy, like you are giving back, you are giving away some energy, and that energy is coming back to you as a way of being grateful and seeing the other person just smiling. And I think I would prefer just seeing the person smiling because of something that I could do to them, even by a little chat or a little joke. Just seeing them smiling and having a positive impact kind of feels very good.
I like what you mentioned is also and exactly connected to the feeling that we were mentioning before, but it's also there's a lens of not just it's not just about the final result. You might like at the point not ended up the way that they wanted, maybe with the entering the design program or they're applying for the next year, but they for sure got better at their awareness, understanding of the context, and for sure they can apply that in other realms of their lives, and that is already a progress. So the thing is just if you also get out of the and I really like the way that you framed it because it got out of the way, oh, this is about if I don't get in then I'm not grateful. No, you decided anyway to help, and that it is an amplifier. And I think more than ever, humanity needs, beyond being a designer, that form of help. Okay. And the form of help is a gesture of kindness. And I think it's just, y- and on the going around, it could be at the design school, even in your office, the next time that you enter, it's not about just offering others um, advice. It's just offering help in any form. Sometimes you just need to move a furniture, Other people need to move to another room. Other
Yeah.
times they might need just an extra coffee, or they simply need, a conversation, need to be listened to. So the thing is, it's about the flavors of human emotions that you developing really the ability over time to get better at recognizing those. And that makes you a better human being, no matter, no matter what. Just you need to interact with others.
Because I think it's something that it is contagious. It is something that multiplies. Um, when we were about to record this, I was sharing with you a bit of this idea of designfulness, um, that I'm making this and inviting people to be part of, because I see that the more generous we are and the more we share being nice to each other, you will share that and you will spread that with others, because they will realize, like, for example, this silly example of, let me help you moving this piece of furniture. They might then feel like, oh, if they helped me, I feel like I should, but not because they should, because someone else did it for them. It's just like something sparked in their minds of, I think I also can be nice. And if I share that, it's like when you smile at someone in the street, the smile is contagious too. Like you smile and the other people is like, I know I am fucking
Look,
smiling, but it's
yeah, it
just
works.
like
It
it just
really
feels
works.
like that, and and I think that's my why of this part, and this goes to the last part of the interview. So from Simon Sinek, we know this idea of the golden circle, that everyone knows what is it that they are doing. Some people know why, or sorry, some people know how is it that they do it, but not everyone knows why. And the why is kind of the strongest part of what we do. What is it that is keeping us awake and pushing every day? What is the reason behind? So if I were to ask you, what's your why behind your design career and your mindset, what would you say?
This is a tough one because I think it's evolving. Okay, so by what I noticed, especially in the last 5 years, I think it was the pre-pandemic and then jumping into several roles, but especially with the design school, it's been still the core. If I really think about the why, the core is still about like I'm fascinated about how humans unlearn, relearn, learn something. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's why I notice in products, for example, if you're thinking on a learning perspective, it's nothing to do with school, but it's everything to do with your feeling confident in doing something. You're learning, for example, to run a skateboard, or you're learning how to run a podcast, or this is a natural physical or digital or combination of the two activities. They need that mindset of discovery, and that's my why. It's just I start sharpening it, so maybe next time you will interview me, and who knows, but what I will tell you. But I think it's just for sure what I noticed over the years has been this observing humans, as I mentioned in the beginning, and how we interact with each other, with objects, and how the objects interact with us as well, because pretty soon objects will be highly interactive, right? There are a lot of theories around that. It's not me, but I think even just a mini robots, that interacts with you, or a Roomba in your house that moves around, right? Like, so the thing is just already an object interacts with pets or cats, and like, it's phenomenal. Like, the internet is full of them. But going back to the why, I would say is a lot about those humans. They are learning, unlearning, relearning constantly. And the thing is, the 21st century, it is a lot about that. It's not a quote from me, but Toffler, as a technologist, mentioned this, that the skills of the 21st century is about unlearning and relearning, because we need to the mindset that we have from previous centuries in a lot of fields, they are outdated, and the way that we think and needs to be refreshed. That's why observing emerging behaviors in us, in kids, for example, I see this in my nephew and my niece or rest of the family, and observing with the mindset of those people, and then helping them in discovering themselves throughout the process.
We know now with the how's the market, and depending on where is it that we are looking at, but mainly we might hear that is kind of a current market is kind of chaotic. So to young designers, or even the ones that are already been there in the field for a long time, what will be your perspective and your advice on navigating this kind of uncertainty with the landscape, both I say professionally, but I think also internally, because to my feeling and experience, when we are not quite good internally, emotionally, it's also very difficult to just navigate by yourself professionally, and just looking at this LinkedIn. Oh, I have started this position. Oh, I have done this. Oh, I have blah blah blah. Oh man, it's so a lot of bombarding ideas into success, and then you are just there waiting for your chance to shine, I guess.
About success, I think we can start from the last thing. There's there's a lot about look inside. There are a lot of stories that are connected to that I heard of, like in the design therapist process, right? Like, and then you start noticing how we all do that for obvious reasons of improvement as well, to compare ourselves with others. And there are ways in which that is also helpful, but there are also a lot of ways, which are the majority, if you ask me, in the design field I'm referring to, they're highly toxic. Okay. So that's, I'd say, something if you're now a design student recently graduated, or a junior designer changing career, for example, or switching between design studios, I would say stop comparing yourself with others. Just like first straight line, direct, super hard like to apply. However, there are a few things that you can do. And one is just not just, you cannot stop yourself comparing that, especially on social media, really hard to, because they're part of the same feed. And so you just see it in front of you. So how can you do that, Ale? Um, but there are a few things. You think about that person and how that person just showing one portion of their lives. They're not showing the rest. Okay. They're part of something much bigger, meaning that person, where are you in the process? So the thing is just, where are you coming from? Where are you moving? What are the elements in your life? And think about when you started. And that's the mindset of equity. Um, and the idea of it took you a decade more because maybe English is not your first language, which is our cases, by the way, in this conversation. And the thing is, that is a starting point, so you can really be happy or what you have achieved so far. That really help you in the process. Looking at where you started and look at your journey. Wow, look at yourself 1 year ago. If you laugh at your design portfolio personally, not someone else's personally, and you look at, Jesus, did I presented that to the manager? That is a good sign. Okay,
Yeah,
did I presented that presentation? Was it like this? Whoa, that color, that font, yes, that was me. That was me 1 year ago. Look at
great.
that growth. That is something that really nobody does it, because you're always looking at how am I gonna apply to that. Look at yourself 6 months ago. And you know what I did even with the design students? I did this. I asked them at the beginning of the program to rate themselves. And then in the middle of the program, rate themselves. And you can just see the panic. The rate went really low. And then they realized, look at what you were doing. Now you all do this. You look at what you were presenting in the first project of the program, 2 years later, your thesis project. That is the first way. So compare yourself, your different pictures of yourself over time, and to the embarrassing portfolio that you have at the beginning when you look at that a decade later. Just, Jesus, did I really got
What
a
do you
job with
mean?
that? Exactly.
Yeah,
No, but I'm giving the extreme here, but to
yeah,
yourself,
of
right? Like
course.
into the point of, but you compare with your version. That really really helps you. And then still you look at what's working in others people work as well. And also, another thing is just normally comes in the conversation, and I had that even on ADP list, the community that you mentioned, or even in other design schools. The students are asking me a lot about artificial intelligence and emerging tools, and I think it's just how those are changing the scenario. And it's true, they're really changing our profession, like previous tools did. But the thing is just the advent of Photoshop in the early 90s really changed the way that we did digital art, right? But the thing is that the speed here has changed as well. So these are two parameters, not just the innovation itself, it's how this is changing. So it's becoming a flywheel going faster and faster. The thing is, try to, if you do two things, one is you're still looking at behaviors. So you really strengthen your behavioral understanding, cognitive science, one aspect, because you won't change in 2 decades from now. Those are things that will stay, meaning basic needs on a behavioral lens, they won't change. Other needs on a more elevated level, yes. So meaning they will interact much more on a robotic level, that will change a lot. So it's not me, there's a lot of theories behind that. That would help you. So the behavioral lens, really get savvy, knowledgeable about that. As a designer, there are plenty of tools online to do that. Others is also find the expression of intelligence, meaning right now there are plenty of tools, Lovable and other emerging tools for making fast applications, prototypes that you can throw into the market. Great. But look at the expression of intelligence in there. Meaning, right now, when I say this, normally even in workshop that I run, people are telling me correctly. So, for example, the Google Assistant or Gemini per se is an expression of intelligence, how it looks. But when this is applied in a reality, in multiple realities, not just a dashboard, because that dashboard will be replaced pretty soon. Okay. The thing is just if you're a human, and that we are, on their side and you're not a bot. Okay. That's what I mean. As a designer, you can truly empathize and have those nuances that in expressing that intelligence. So the thing is just maybe there's the people that you're designing with, not just for, are not loving what you're presenting, but not because it makes them feel not important in the process. So that you become an advocate for humans. So what I'm saying is, it's very hard right now. I get it, but also there's still chance. Okay, that's a that's a message of hope in this channel that we have, and I think this is a two lenses. So behavioral lens, get savvy into that, and the other lens is expression of intelligence.
Is there any book or resource, podcast, movie, art, or someone that we should be looking at because of what they're doing, then that can inspire us, not just design wise, but also mental, something that you think is something that you're liking a lot or has changed for you?
Try to diverge from what you normally do. What's your field? That would surprise you. So that is a serendipitous mindset. So a mindset that you introduce serendipity into your life, which is really hard at the beginning because we are all embedded into a routine. But the important difference here is in saying, if you normally do this, you try to do something different. You go to that concert that you've never seen, and maybe you don't even want to go. You could be surprised about the other things that are happening. And that serendipitous mindset truly can be inspiring for you in your career as a designer. So it's something going out of the scope. A few books, yes. The usual that I normally talk about is The Art of Noticing from Rob Walker. And The Art of Noticing is a book that expresses several exercises that you can do to start noticing details. Even you can do it even with these plants. You start observing it, and those exercises are really refining and sharpening your ability to notice what you notice. If you're an electrician entering to a room, you start noticing just exactly what's your profession. So you start noticing all the plugs and how the lights have been posed, if everything is aligned. If we start as a designer and we enter into a room, we will notice something completely different. So your mindset is exactly what you notice in life. So notice what you notice is this metacognition. So this observation of what you're noticing in the world. So this one for sure, and the creative act, that's for sure.
Oof.
It
I'm
it
just reading it now. I'm
Yes,
loving it.
yes. So the creative, because the creative act is a book of that has not a linear narrative, so it has thoughts, areas of
Mm.
thoughts. You can just open
Yeah.
it randomly and you get that wisdom that can truly unlock you, rather than say, this is the process, this is the way. It's becoming so much complex what we're doing, that I think it's much more about those pearls of wisdom that really can, like, enlight something different in you. I think that
Like
this,
kind of
there's a,
kind of a spark, isn't it? Like
yes.
when I'm reading it, sometimes I open it linear and then I'm highlighting it, and sometimes I feel like let's see what's my luck, and then it really resonates with what I'm doing that time, which is funny. Like somehow the thought that I'm reading in that part, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that seems like something that I can apply today, and it's just beautiful.
Yes.
Like every time that I'm reading one of those little essays, is they are so meaningful and deep, and they are also super easy to read and great. And the book is beautiful also.
Honestly, it really it doesn't matter your level of expertise or exactly your field in design. It will unlock a lot, and then paint. Never stop sketching as well. I would say that really, it doesn't matter how good you are. Like it's not about that. It's about having the physicality. There's so much research around how it can unlock in your brains. Try to write it down. Try to, because the physical gesture has so much meaning into our body. We are embodying a thought into something that is on paper. So that if it's your medium is sculpting or painting or even just simply writing or sketching, keep doing that. Especially in a highly digital world, it truly makes a difference.
I really thank you, Ale. As
Okay.
I was saying again from the beginning, the idea of this was to have a chill, nice conversation where, as we
Here
had
we
when
are.
we were at uni,
Here we
right?
are. Yes,
So
exactly. Here we are.
yeah, I thank you again, and I hope it's not the last chat we
Absolutely.
have.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Is there any way where you like to be contacted, or if people can follow, or something that you would like to share?
I would say, yeah, on LinkedIn, they can for sure reach out, or ADP lists as well. Like I do have that. If they, whenever I like have some slots available, lately I've changed jobs, so it's a little bit tricky. But I promise that I will try my best to answer. Please do not expect an immediate answer, but I will try my best, and I will answer you eventually. So it will happen. But that's for sure.
Okay, amazing. Thank
But
you.
thank you for having me. This is phenomenal. So I hope to have more of this for sure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this lovely conversation with Ale Argenio. We really hope some of these ideas we explore resonate with you and bring value to your life. Remember that Designfulness exists to help you grow, not just as a designer, but also as a person. It's about sharing tools, perspectives, and a healthy mindset for both creativity and life. Wherever you are on your journey, keep learning, keep playing, and above all, keep sharing. Because, yeah, sharing is caring. Cheers, Gerry.